The trading station floated in space like a giant metal city. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went every day. Inside the station, aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through the long halls. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others had 4 arms and blue skin. The noise never stopped. Voices, machines, and footsteps mixed together in a constant hum. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the main corridor. He was a human, and his ship was docked at level 12. The cargo hold was full of medical supplies heading to the outer colonies. Jake had been making this run for 3 years now. He knew most of the traders and station workers by name. As he turned a corner, Jake saw something that made him stop. 3 small creatures were standing near the Vraxian embassy. They looked like they were made of living crystal and water. Their skin was clear and blue, and lights moved under the surface like tiny stars. Jake had never seen anything like them before. The creatures were talking to a huge Vraxian guard. The guard was 8 feet tall and covered in black scales. His voice was deep and angry. "Go away, water rats. We have no time for your problems." One of the crystal creatures stepped forward. It was smaller than the others, maybe 4 feet tall. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "Please, we only need a few minutes. Our world is dying. Our people need help." The Vraxian guard laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Your world? What world? You have nothing we want. You make nothing we need. Go find someone else to bother." The guard turned away and walked back into the embassy. The doors slammed shut with a loud bang. The 3 crystal creatures stood there for a moment. Their lights grew dimmer. Jake could see they were sad and scared. Jake watched as the creatures walked to the next embassy. This one belonged to the Etherian Council. The Etherians were tall and thin, with silver skin and no hair. They thought they were very smart and important. The crystal creatures tried to talk to them too, but the Etherians just looked at them like they were bugs. "Your species is not registered with the Council," said one Etherian. His voice was cold and flat. "You have no economic value. We cannot waste time on worthless causes." The crystal creatures left that embassy too. Jake followed them as they tried 3 more places. Each time, they were turned away. Each time, their lights grew dimmer. By the time they reached the lower levels of the station, they looked ready to give up. Jake found them sitting on a bench in the quiet part of the station. The smallest one was holding a small crystal cube. Tears were falling down her face. They looked like drops of liquid light. Jake sat down next to them. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The small creature looked up at him. Her eyes were like deep pools of water. "You are human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, I am. My name is Jake. What's yours?" The creature's lights flickered a little brighter. "My name is very long in my language. You can call me Melody. These are my friends, Tide and Current." "Nice to meet you, Melody," Jake said. "I saw what happened up there. Those guards were not very nice to you." Melody's lights dimmed again. "They never are. We have been here for 2 months. Every day we try to tell someone about our world. Every day they send us away." Jake leaned forward. "What's wrong with your world?" Melody looked at her friends. They nodded. She held up the crystal cube. "This holds the story of our dying world. We are called Zephyrians. We come from a planet covered in water. Our cities are made of living coral. We have lived in peace for thousands of years." She touched the cube, and it began to glow. Pictures appeared in the air above it. Jake saw beautiful underwater cities with towers that looked like they were made of rainbow glass. He saw the Zephyrians swimming through the water, their lights making patterns as they talked to each other. "Your world is beautiful," Jake said. "Was beautiful," Melody corrected. 3 months ago, something came to our world. We call it the silence. It kills everything it touches. Our coral cities are turning black and dying. Our people are getting sick. The ocean itself is changing. The pictures changed. Now Jake saw the same cities, but they were dark and crumbling. The water was black. Dead fish floated on the surface. It was horrible. We tried to fight it, Melody continued. But we are not warriors. We are builders and singers and healers. The silence is too strong. It learns and grows. Soon there will be nothing left of our world. Jake felt anger building in his chest. And nobody up there will help you? Tide spoke for the first time. His voice was deeper than Melody's. They say we are too small, too poor, too weak. They say helping us would be a waste of time and money. The Vraxians called us bottom feeders, Current added. The Etherians said we have no economic value. The hegemony would not even look at our data. Jake stared at the pictures still floating. Above the cube, children played in the dying cities. Families held each other as their homes crumbled. Old Zephyrians sang sad songs as they watched their world die. How many people live on your world? Jake asked. 2 billion, Melody said quietly. Soon it will be 0. Jake stood up. He had made a decision. Come with me. Where? Melody asked. To my ship. I want my crew to see this. Maybe we can help. Melody's lights flashed brighter. You would do that? But we have nothing to give. We are not important. Jake smiled. Your people. You're in trouble. That's enough for me. The 3 Zephyrians looked at each other. Their lights began to pulse in rhythm. Jake realized they were talking to each other in their own language. Finally, Melody stood up. We will come with you, she said. Thank you for listening to us. No one has done that for a long time. As they walked toward the docking bay, Jake thought about all the aliens who had turned these people away. He thought about the 2 billion lives hanging in the balance. He thought about what his crew would say when he brought 3 strangers aboard his ship. But mostly, he thought about the look in Melody's eyes. The hope that had almost died was starting to come back. That was worth any risk. The cargo ship Helena's. Dream was not much to look at. It was old and patched in many places, but it was home to Jake and his crew. As they walked up the ramp, Jake called out to his engineer. Lisa, Danny, Amy, come to the cargo bay. We have visitors. Soon 3 humans stood before the Zephyrians. Lisa Park was short and strong, with grease on her hands from working on the engines. Danny Rodriguez was tall and thin, with kind eyes. Dr. Amy Chun was the ship's doctor and scientist. She studied aliens and their biology. This is Melody, Tide. And Current, Jake said. They need our help. Lisa looked at the crystal-like aliens with curiosity. I've never seen your species before. Where are you from? That's the problem, Jake said. Show them, Melody. Once again, the cube created pictures in the air. The crew watched in silence as Melody told the story of her dying world. When she finished, the cargo bay was quiet. Doctor Chun was the first to speak. This silence. It's not natural, is it? No, Melody said. It appeared suddenly. It acts like it thinks. It learns from everything it destroys. Sounds like a weapon, Danny said quietly. Jake nodded. That's what I was thinking. Someone did this on purpose. Lisa walked closer to the holographic images. And the other species won't help? They say we are not worth saving, Tide said bitterly. Lisa's face grew angry. Well, they're wrong. Jake, we have to do something? That's what I was hoping you'd say, Jake replied. Amy, can you study their data? Maybe figure out what this silence really is? Dr. Chun nodded. I'll need to run some tests. But yes, I can try. Jake turned to Melody. Are you willing to take us to your world? Melody's lights blazed bright. You would come with us? To our dying planet? Someone has to, Jake said. It might as well be us. For the first time in months, Melody smiled. It was a beautiful sight. Her whole body glowed with hope. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for seeing us. As the crew began to prepare for the journey, Jake thought about what they were getting into. They were just a cargo ship with 4 humans and some basic equipment. They were going up against something that could destroy an entire world, but they were going anyway. Because sometimes doing the right thing was more important than being smart or safe. The Helena's dream began to move away from the station. Behind them, the trading hub continued its business as if nothing had happened. Ahead of them waited a dying world and 2 billion lives hanging in the balance. Jake had no idea if they could help, but he knew they had to try. The journey to the Zephyrian world took 3 days. During that time, Dr. Amy Chun studied the data that Melody had brought. She worked in her small lab, looking at samples and readings through her microscope. The more she learned, the more worried she became. This is not good, she told Jake on the second day. The silence is not just killing things. It's changing them. It's like it's rewriting the basic rules of life itself. Jake stood in the doorway of the lab. Can you figure out how to stop it? Amy shook her head. I need to see it in person. And I need better equipment. This is way beyond anything I've ever seen. Meanwhile, Lisa was in the engine room with Current. The Zephyrian was showing her how their technology worked. It was completely different from human machines. Where humans used metal and electricity, the Zephyrians used living coral and bioenergy. Your ships grow instead of being built, Lisa said in amazement. That's incredible. Current's lights flickered sadly. Our ships are dying too. The silence spreads through everything on our world. Soon we will have no way to leave. Danny spent time with Tide, learning about Zephyrian culture. He discovered that they were not just builders and healers. They were also artists and musicians. Their whole civilization was based on harmony and working together. We have no armies, Tide explained. We have no weapons. We solve problems by talking and sharing. The silence is something we cannot understand. Maybe that's why the other species won't help, Danny said. They only respect strength and money. Yes, Tide agreed. We have neither. We only have our songs and our hope. On the 3rd day, they reached the Zephyrian world. Jake stood on the bridge and stared at the planet below. It had once been beautiful, covered in blue-green oceans with small land masses. Now, large patches of the ocean were black. The darkness was spreading like a disease. Take us down, Jake told Danny. They landed near one of the largest cities. From the air, it had looked like a giant flower made of coral. Up close, Jake could see the damage. Half of the city was black and crumbling. The water around it was thick and dark. Melody led them through the underwater passages. The humans wore special suits that let them breathe underwater. They swam through corridors that had once been bright with color. Now, everything was gray and dying. This was the Grand Hall, Melody said as they entered a huge chamber. Here, the elders made decisions for our people. Here we held our greatest celebrations. The Grand Hall was mostly dark now. Only a few small lights flickered in the walls. In the center of the room, a group of Zephyrians sat in a circle. They were older than Melody, their crystal skin dim and cracked. These are the Council of Voices, Melody explained. They lead our people. The eldest Zephyrian looked up as they approached. Her name was Deep Current of Ancient Waters, but she told the humans to call her Elder. Melody has returned, Elder said. Her voice was weak but kind. And she has brought visitors. These are the humans I told you about, Melody said. They want to help us. Elder studied Jake and his crew. "Humans," she said slowly, "we have heard of your species. Young but brave, you fight wars and explore dangerous places." "We also help people in trouble," Jake said. "We're here to learn about the silence. Maybe we can find a way to stop it." Elders. Lights flickered brighter for a moment. "Many have tried. Our best scientists and healers have studied the silence for months. It cannot be stopped. It only grows stronger." "Can you show us?" Dr. Chun asked. Elder nodded. She gestured to a younger Zephyrian. "Wave Singer will take you to the edge of the darkness, but be careful. The silence has been moving faster lately." Wave Singer led them through the city to its outer edge. Here, the humans could see the border between life and death. On one side, the coral buildings still glowed with soft light. On the other side, everything was black and still. "It moves about 10 meters each day," Wave Singer explained. "First, the coral turns gray. Then it becomes black. Then it crumbles into dust." Dr. Chun took out her instruments and began taking readings. "The energy levels here are all wrong," she said. "It's like something is sucking the life out of everything." Lisa knelt down and touched the edge of the blackness. Her suit's sensors immediately started beeping warnings. "The molecular structure is breaking down," she said. "Whatever this is, it's not just killing. It's unmaking." Danny looked out at the vast area of dead ocean. "How much of your world is like this?" "About 30%, Wave Singer said. "And it grows larger every day." As they watched, a school of fish swam too close to the black water. The moment they touched it, they stopped moving. Their bright scales turned gray, then black. Within minutes, they had dissolved completely. "My God," Amy whispered. "It's like they never existed." They returned to the grand hall to report what they had seen. Elder listened to their findings without surprise. "This is what we have been trying to tell the galaxy," she said. "The silence does not just kill. It erases. Soon, there will be no trace that the Zephyrians ever existed." Jake felt anger building in his chest again. "What about the other species? Have any of them been here to see this?" "No," Elder said. "They read our reports and decided we were not worth saving. They said the silence was our problem, not theirs." "But what if it spreads?" Lisa asked. "What if it doesn't stop with your world?" Elder's lights grew very dim. "We fear that too, but we cannot prove it. And even if we could, who would listen to us?" Dr. Chun was studying her readings from the black zone. "Elder, you said this started 3 months ago. Was there anything unusual before that? Any strange ships or visitors?" Elder thought for a moment. "Yes, about 4 months ago, we detected ships at the edge of our system. They were not like any we had seen before. Very large and dark. We tried to communicate with them, but they did not answer. Did you report this to the Galactic Council?" Jake asked. "Of course. We sent messages to everyone we could think of, but our reports were filed away and forgotten. We are not important enough for anyone to investigate." Amy looked at her scanner readings again. "Elder, I need to ask you something important. Is it possible that the silence is not from your world? Could it have come from somewhere else?" "What do you mean?" Elder asked. "I mean, could someone have brought it here on purpose?" The grand hall became very quiet. All the Zephyrians stared at Dr. Chun. "You think someone did this to us?" Wave Singer asked. "I'm not sure yet," Amy said. "But the silence is too perfect. It's designed specifically to target your biology and your coral cities. Natural diseases don't work like that." Elder's lights began to pulse rapidly. "You think this is a weapon?" "I think it's possible," Amy said. "And if it is, then we need to find out who made it and why." Jake stood up. "Elder, we need to contact more people. We need help from scientists and doctors who know more than we." "Do," Who would come? Elder asked sadly. We have tried everyone. Not everyone, Jake said. We haven't tried other humans. Jake used the ship's communication system to send a message to Admiral Patricia Wells. She was in charge of the human colonial fleet. Jake had worked with her before, and he knew she was a good person. The message took 2 hours to reach her. Her reply came back quickly. Jake, I read your report. This is serious. I'm sending the research ship New Horizon with a full science team. They'll be there in 5 days. In the meantime, keep studying the silence. Document everything you can. And Jake ... good work. Someone needs to stand up for the little guys. When Jake told the Zephyrians about the incoming help, their lights blazed brighter than he had seen since meeting them. More humans are coming to help us, Melody asked. Yes, Jake said. Scientists and doctors, the best we have. Elder swam closer to Jake. Why? Why do your people care about us? We have nothing to offer you. Jake thought about the question. Because it's the right thing to do. Because no one deserves to die alone and forgotten. Because if we don't help each other, what's the point of being alive? For the first time since they had arrived, Elder smiled. Perhaps there is hope after all. But even as they celebrated the coming help, the silence continued to spread. Each day, more of the Zephyrian world turned black. Time was running out. That night, Jake stood on the observation deck of his ship. Through the water, he could see the lights of the dying city. So many lives hanging in the balance. So many dreams about to be erased forever. Lisa joined him at the window. You did the right thing, she said, calling for help. I hope it's enough, Jake replied. I hope we're not too late. Dr. Chun appeared beside them. I've been thinking about what Elder said, about those ships that appeared before the silence started. What about them? Jake asked. If someone did this on purpose, they might come back, to make sure their weapon worked, to finish the job. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You think they're coming back? I think we better be ready if they do, Amy said. In the distance, another section of the city went dark. The silence was spreading faster now, as if it knew help was coming and wanted to finish its work first. Jake made a decision. Lisa, start working on the ship's weapons. Amy, keep studying the silence. Learn everything you can about how it works. What are you going to do? Lisa asked. Jake stared out at the dying world. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what's happening here. If we can't stop the silence, at least we can make sure the galaxy knows who's responsible. The next few days would be crucial. Help was coming. Boo. The human research ship New Horizon arrived exactly when Admiral Wells said it would. Jake watched from the underwater city as the large ship settled into orbit above the planet. It was 3 times bigger than his cargo ship and packed with laboratories and equipment. Dr. Marcus Brown was the lead scientist on the New Horizon. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his life studying alien diseases and had seen terrible things before. But when he saw the silence spreading across the ocean floor, even he was shocked. This is worse than your reports made it sound, he told Jake as they swam through the dying city. The rate of destruction is accelerating. Can you stop it? Elder asked. Hope flickered in her dim lights. I don't know yet, Dr. Brown said honestly. But we're going to try everything we can. The New Horizon science team set up equipment all around the edge of the silence. They took samples of the black water and studied the dead coral. They measured energy levels and analyzed the molecular structure of everything the silence touched. Dr. Chun worked closely with the new team. She shared everything she had learned during the past few days. The silence is not random, she explained. It targets specific proteins that only exist in Zephyrian biology. It's like a key made to fit one very specific lock. Dr. Brown nodded grimly. That confirms what we suspected. This is definitely a weapon. Someone designed it to kill only Zephyrians. Lisa had been working with the ship's engineer, a woman named Carol Wright. Together, they were studying the energy patterns of the silence. It's not just biological, Lisa said. There's a technological component, too. Something is controlling it and directing its spread, like a computer program? Carol asked. More like artificial intelligence, Lisa replied. The silence learns from everything it destroys. It's getting smarter and more efficient. Danny had been talking to more Zephyrians about the mysterious ships they had seen. He discovered that several outer colonies had also reported strange vessels before the silence appeared. They weren't exploring, he told Jake. They were mapping. They studied your world for weeks before the attack began. Jake felt his anger growing. Someone planned this very carefully. They knew exactly what they were doing. Dr. Brown called a meeting in the Grand Hall. Scientists from both ships gathered with the Zephyrian elders. The news was not good. We've learned a lot about the silence, Dr. Brown began. But we still don't know how to stop it. It's too advanced and too well designed. How long do we have? Elder asked quietly. At the current rate of spread, maybe 2 weeks before it covers the entire planet. The hall fell silent. 2 weeks, 2 billion lives. There is one thing we can try, Dr. Brown continued. If we can find the source of the silence, we might be able to disrupt it, but we need to know where it came from. Amy stood up. I think I know. The energy readings show that the silence started from 3 different points on the planet. Someone planted it in multiple locations. Can you find those locations? Jake asked. I think so. But they're deep underwater, in the darkest parts of the ocean. Elder's lights pulsed with worry. Those places are dangerous even without the silence. The pressure is enormous, and the currents are deadly. We have to try, Jake said. The next morning, Jake and Dr. Brown took a deep-sea submersible to the first location. The submarine was designed for human use, but Wavesinger came with them to guide the way. As they descended into the dark waters, the pressure increased dramatically. The submarine's lights cut through the blackness, revealing the ocean floor far below. Even here, thousands of feet underwater, they could see the spreading darkness of the silence. There, Wavesinger pointed to a massive crater in the ocean floor. The silence is strongest there. Jake piloted the submarine toward the crater. As they got closer, their instruments began detecting something metallic buried in the seafloor. It's a device, Dr. Brown said, studying the readings. About the size of a small building. It's been here for months. Can we destroy it? Jake asked. Maybe, but we need to know what it is first. And we need to find the other 2. They spent the next 2 days locating the other devices. Each one was hidden in a deep trench, far from any Zephyrian settlement. Each one was pumping the silence into the ocean, spreading death and destruction across the planet. Definitely artificial, Dr. Brown concluded. These are seeded weapons. Someone dropped them here and activated them remotely. Back in the Grand Hall, the scientists shared their findings. The Zephyrians listened with growing horror as they learned that their world had been deliberately poisoned. Who would do this to us? Melody asked. We have never hurt anyone. Dr. Chun had been analyzing the technology of the devices. The metal composition is consistent with hegemony of scales manufacturing, she said. But that doesn't make sense. Why would they attack you? Elder's lights flickered with recognition. The hegemony. They came to our world 5 years ago. They wanted to build a military base in our system. We refused. We told them our space was for peaceful purposes only. What did they say? Jake asked. They said we would regret our decision. But we never thought they meant this. Amy looked at her data again. This explains everything. A hegemony tested a biological weapon on your world. They chose you because you're peaceful and isolated. They knew no one would come to help you. But why test it at all? Danny asked. Dr. Brown's face was grim. Because they plan to use it. On other worlds. Worlds that have something they want. This is just the beginning. Jake stood up quickly. We have to warn everyone. The whole galaxy needs to know what the hegemony is doing. Who will believe us? Elder asked sadly. We tried. To warn people before. No one listened. They'll listen now, Jake said, because we have proof. That night, Jake sent messages to every major government and news organization in the galaxy. He included all the scientific data, all the evidence of the hegemony's involvement, and detailed recordings of the dying Zephyrian world. Most of the messages were ignored or filed away. But a few got through. A reporter from the independent news network agreed to come and see for herself. Several minor governments sent messages of support. And most importantly, Admiral Wells promised to bring the evidence to the human colonial council. But help was still days away, and the silence was spreading faster than ever. We need to do something now, Lisa said. We can't just wait for the galaxy to wake up. Dr. Brown had been working on a desperate plan. We might be able to create a resonance field, he said. If we can match the frequency of the silence, we might be able to disrupt it. How? Jake asked. We use the Zephyrians' bioharmonic abilities, combined with our technology. Their natural communication system might be able to interfere with the silence's control signals. Elder was interested but cautious. Our harmony songs are for healing and building. We have never used them as weapons. This wouldn't be a weapon, Dr. Brown explained. It would be like singing the silence to sleep. The plan was risky and complicated. It would require dozens of Zephyrians working together, supported by equipment from both human ships. And even if it worked, it would only slow the silence down, not stop it permanently. We have to try, Melody said. It's better than doing nothing. As the teams prepared for the resonance experiment, Jake received an urgent message from Admiral Wells. The news was bad. Jake, I presented the evidence to the council. They're taking it seriously, but they need more time to investigate. In the meantime, I have some bad news. Our long-range sensors have detected a hegemony battle fleet moving toward your position. They'll be there in 3 days. Jake felt his heart sink. They're coming to finish the job. Looks like it. I'm sending reinforcements, but they won't arrive for 5 days. You're going to have to hold out until then. Jake gathered his crew and the science team. We have a problem. The hegemony is coming back. They want to destroy all the evidence of what they've done. How many ships? Lisa asked. At least 20. Maybe more. They're bringing enough firepower to destroy this entire planet. Dr. Brown looked worried. We're not a military force. We're scientists and cargo haulers. We can't fight a battle fleet. We don't have to win, Jake said. We just have to survive. Long enough for help to arrive. And we have to make sure the truth gets out. Elder swam forward. This is our fight too. If the hegemony destroys our world, they destroy all evidence of their crime. We cannot let that happen. What can you do? Jake asked. You said yourself that Zephyrians are not warriors. We may not be warriors, Elder said, but we know our world better than anyone. And we have something they don't expect. What's that? Elders. Lights pulsed with determination. We have all eyes now. We have humans who care about us. Together, we might be able to do something they never planned for. As the teams worked frantically to prepare the resonance field, Jake sent out one more message. This time, he didn't send it to governments or news organizations. He sent it to every ship, every station, every person he could reach. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the cargo ship Helena's Dream. In 3 days, The hegemony of scales will arrive at the Zephyrian world to commit genocide. 2 billion innocent people will die, and a crime against all life will be covered up. We need help. We need witnesses. We need the galaxy to see what's happening here. The message spread through space, passed from ship to ship, from station to station. The hegemony fleet arrived exactly when Admiral Wells said it would. 23 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system. Each ship was bigger than anything the humans had, painted black with red symbols. That meant death in many languages. Jake watched from the bridge of the Helenas, dream as the enemy fleet began moving toward the planet. His small cargo ship, the research vessel New Horizon, and 2 human destroyers that had arrived just hours earlier looked tiny compared to the hegemony armada. "This is Admiral Krex of the hegemony Third Fleet," came a voice over the communication system. The voice was cold and harsh. "Human ships, you are in violation of hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Jake picked up the communication device. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. We're in Zephyrian space, not hegemony. Space, we're here to help people in need." "The Zephyrians are dead or dying," Admiral Krex replied. "Their world is contaminated and dangerous. We are here to prevent the contamination from spreading." "You mean you're here to cover up your crime?" Jake shot back. "We know you created the silence. We know you're responsible for genocide." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Krex spoke again, his voice even colder. "You have 1 hour to leave. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly." Jake looked at his small fleet. Commander Sarah Parker of the destroyer Valiant had taken charge of the military ships. She was a tough woman with short gray hair and steady hands. "We can't win a direct fight," she told Jake over the comm. "But we don't have to. We just need to buy time." "How long can you hold them off?" Jake asked. "Maybe 6 hours. Maybe less. The hegemony ships are bigger and stronger than ours." Down on the planet, the Zephyrians were preparing for their part of the battle. Elder had called together every Zephyrian who could still sing harmony. Hundreds of them gathered in the Grand Hall, their lights pulsing in rhythm as they practiced the resonance field technique that Dr. Brown had taught them. "Remember," Dr. Brown said to the assembled Zephyrians, "you're not fighting the hegemony directly. You're fighting the silence. If we can disrupt it even a little, we might be able to slow down its spread." Melody stood at the center of the group. She had become the coordinator, translating between the human scientists and her people. "We understand," she said. "We will sing the old songs of harmony, but we will aim them at the darkness." Lisa had been working non-stop to connect the human technology with the Zephyrian bioharmonic systems. Cables and crystal formations were linked together in patterns that looked like art, but functioned like weapons. "The resonance generators are ready," she reported to Jake. "But I don't know if they'll work. We're combining 2 completely different types of science." "It has to work," Jake replied. "It's all we have." The hour passed quickly. Admiral Krex's voice came over the communication system again. "Your time is up, humans. Withdraw now or face the consequences." Commander Parker responded first. "This is Commander Sarah Parker of the Human Colonial Navy. We are here under international law to provide humanitarian aid. Any attack on us will be considered an act of war." Admiral Krex laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You're colonial. Navy is far from here human. And when we are finished, there will be no witnesses to tell anyone what happened." The first shots came from the hegemony fleet. Massive energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. The destroyers Valiant and Courage moved to intercept, their shields flaring as they absorbed the attacks. "All ships evasive maneuvers," Commander Parker ordered. "Make them work for every hit. The human ships were much smaller and faster than the hegemony vessels. They darted between the enemy ships like insects, firing their weapons at vulnerable points. But there were just too many enemies. Jake watched as the Courage took a direct hit to its engine section. The ship spun out of control, venting atmosphere and debris. "Courage is down," came the report. "We're evacuating to escape pods." That left only the Valiant, the New Horizon, and Jake's cargo ship against 23 enemy warships. "Jake," Commander Parker called over the comm, "get to the planet's surface. Protect the civilians. We'll hold them off as long as we can." "What about you?" Jake asked. "We'll be fine," she lied. They both knew the Valiant couldn't last much longer. Jake piloted the Helena's Dream toward the planet, dodging energy beams and missile explosions. Behind him, the space battle continued. The Valiant was giving everything it had, but the hegemony ships were closing in. On the planet's surface, the resonance field experiment began. Hundreds of Zephyrians sang together, their voices creating harmonies that had never been heard before. The sound was beautiful and haunting, like whale songs mixed with crystal chimes. Dr. Brown monitored the equipment. "It's working," he shouted. "The energy readings are changing. The silence is responding to the resonance." At the edge of the dark zone, something amazing was happening. The black water began to shimmer and change. For the first time in months, the silence stopped advancing. "We're actually doing it," Lisa said in amazement. "We're pushing it back," but their celebration was short-lived. High above, a space battle was going badly. A Valiant's shields were failing, and 3 hegemony ships were moving toward the planet. "They're going to bombard us from orbit," Danny said, watching the tactical display. "They're going to destroy the whole planet." Jake made a desperate decision. He activated the ship's communication system and sent a message on every frequency he could reach. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, broadcasting from the Zephyrian world. The hegemony of Scales is committing genocide against 2 billion innocent people. They created a biological weapon called the Silence to destroy an entire species. They are here now to cover up their crime by destroying all evidence." He paused, then continued. "I don't know if anyone is listening. I don't know if anyone cares. But I need you to know what happened here. The Zephyrians were a peaceful people who never hurt anyone. They asked for help, and the galaxy turned its back on them. Only when they were dying did someone finally listen." The message spread through space, picked up by communication relays, and broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time, the truth about the Zephyrian genocide was being heard by millions of people. In the Grand Hall, the Zephyrians continued their harmonic song. But now something else was happening. As their voices rose and fell together, their lights began to pulse in new patterns. They were no longer just singing to disrupt the silence. They were singing to tell their story. The bioluminescent patterns they created were a form of communication that could be seen from space. Anyone looking at the planet would see the Zephyrians' lights spelling out their history, their culture, their final testament to the galaxy. "Look at that," Dr. Chan said, tears in her eyes. "They're writing their legacy in lights." High above, the hegemony ships prepared to fire their planet-killing weapons. But Admiral Krex hesitated. The human broadcast had been picked up by ships throughout the sector. Other vessels were beginning to arrive at the edge of the system. "Sir," reported one of his officers, "we're detecting 17 ships approaching. Multiple species and governments. They're requesting permission to observe." Admiral Krex snarled. "Deny them. This is a hegemony operation." But it was too late. The story was already spreading. New ships, independent traders, even some military. Vessels from neutral governments had come to see what was happening. The hegemony could destroy the planet, but they couldn't destroy the truth anymore. On the planet's surface, the resonance field was having an even greater effect. The silence was not just stopping, it was beginning to retreat. The black water was turning gray, then clear. Dead coral was showing signs of life. "It's working better than we hoped," Dr. Brown said excitedly. "The resonance isn't just disrupting the silence, it's reversing it." Elder swam up to Jake, her lights brighter than he had ever seen them. "Captain Morrison, our song is not just stopping the darkness. It's healing our world." "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "The harmony of our people was always what kept our world healthy," Elder explained. "The silence broke that harmony. Now that we're singing together again, our world remembers how to live." Above them, Admiral Krex faced an impossible choice. He could destroy the planet and complete his mission, but doing so would confirm everything the humans had said. The galaxy was watching now. There would be consequences. His second-in-command approached him on the bridge. "Sir, we should withdraw. The operation has been compromised." "No," Admiral Krex growled. "We finish what we started. Prepare the planet crackers." But before he could give the order to fire, new ships dropped out of hyperspace. These were larger than the others, and they carried the markings of the human colonial fleet. "This is Admiral Patricia Wells of the Human Colonial Navy," came a voice over the communication system. "Admiral Krex, you are ordered to withdraw immediately." "You have no authority here, human," Admiral Krex replied. "I have the authority of a dozen governments who have seen the evidence of your crimes," Admiral Wells shot back. "Withdraw now, or we will force you to withdraw." Jake looked up from the planet's surface to see the most beautiful sight of his life. The human fleet had arrived, not just military ships, but hospital ships, supply vessels, and even some cargo haulers like his own. The cavalry had finally come, the space around the Zeph. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of his new ship, the Sanctuary. Through the crystal-clear water, he could see the rebuilt Zephyrian city below. Where once there had been black death and crumbling coral, now there were towers of living light that stretched toward the surface. The city was different now. Alongside the traditional coral structures, there were new buildings that mixed human technology with Zephyrian bioengineering. Gardens of sea plants grew in patterns that had never existed before. It was beautiful in a way that neither species could have created alone. "Captain Morrison," came a familiar musical voice behind him. Jake turned to see Melody approaching. She was wearing the blue uniform of a Human Colonial Alliance ambassador, but her crystal skin still glowed with the same warm light he remembered from their first meeting. "Ambassador Melody," Jake said with a smile, "how are the negotiations?" "Going? Very well," she replied. "The Galactic Council has officially recognized the Zephyrian genocide as a crime against all sentient life. The hegemony of Scales is facing sanctions from 17 different governments." Jake nodded. "Good. What about the other survivors?" "The hospital ships found 3 more Zephyrian colonies that the silence hadn't reached yet. Almost 50,000 survivors in total. They're being resettled here on the homeworld." It was better than they had dared to hope 6 months ago. When the silence was finally stopped, they had feared that only a few thousand Zephyrians remained alive. But the species was resilient, and with help from across the galaxy, they were rebuilding. "The Council also voted to create the Protected Species Act," Melody continued. "Any species requesting help will be guaranteed a fair hearing, regardless of their economic or military value." "That's what we were hoping for," Jake said. "No one should have to face extinction alone." Melody's lights pulsed with gratitude. "It would never have happened without you and your crew. Without humans." Jake looked out at the bustling city below. Zephyrian children played in the coral gardens, while human engineers worked alongside their parents to repair the old structures. Dr. Chun had established a permanent research station that was making incredible breakthroughs in bioengineering. Lisa had started a joint human Zephyrian company that was revolutionizing space travel technology. "We all did it together," Jake said. "That's what made it work." A soft chime sounded through the ship. Danny's voice came over the communication. "System. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system. Unknown species, requesting assistance." Jake and Melody exchanged glances. This was exactly why the sanctuary had been built. Admiral Wells had given Jake command of the ship, with a simple mission: find the forgotten and help the helpless. "What do we know about them?" Jake asked as they made their way to the bridge. "Not much," Danny replied. "They call themselves the Drifters. They say their world is dying, and no one will listen to them." Jake felt a familiar anger building in his chest. Sounds like we've heard that before. The bridge of the sanctuary was unlike any ship Jake had ever commanded. Half the crew was human, half Zephyrian. The technology was a blend of both species' best achievements. And at the navigation station sat Wavesinger, who had become one of the finest pilots in the colonial fleet. "Plot a course for the Kepler." "System," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." "Already done, Captain," Wavesinger replied, her lights flickering with anticipation. "We'll be there in 4 days." Dr. Chun appeared on the main screen from her research station. "Jake, I've been analyzing the distress signal. The energy patterns are similar to what we detected before the silence appeared. This might be another biological weapon." "The hegemony?" Jake asked. "Possibly. Or someone else using their technology." Jake made his decision. "Send a message to Admiral Wells. Tell her we might need backup. And broadcast our mission on all frequencies. Let everyone know we're responding to a distress call." As the sanctuary moved away from the Zephyrian world, Jake thought about how much had changed. The galaxy was different now. The story of the Zephyrian genocide had shocked many species into reconsidering their priorities. There was still cruelty and indifference, but there was also hope. The Human Colonial Alliance had grown to include dozens of smaller species that had previously been ignored. The Zephyrians were not just members, but leaders, using their natural harmony abilities to help mediate disputes and find peaceful solutions to conflicts. "Captain," Melody said, reading from a datapad, "I've been researching the Drifters. They're a nomadic species that travels between star systems in great fleets. They've been trying to contact various governments for 3 months. Let me guess," Jake said. "No one will help them because they don't own any planets or have anything valuable to trade." "Exactly. They're seen as space vagrants, worthless." Jake shook his head. "When will they learn? Every species has value. Every life matters." The journey to the Kepler system gave them time to prepare. The sanctuary's crew studied everything they could find about the Drifters. They were an ancient people who had given up planetary life thousands of years ago to live among the stars. Their ships were works of art, built from materials harvested from asteroid belts and powered by exotic energy sources. But according to the distress signals, something was killing their fleet. Ships were going dark one by one, their crews dying from an unknown plague. The surviving Drifters were desperate and running out of time. "It's the same pattern," Dr. Chun reported as they analyzed the data. "A biological weapon specifically designed to target one species. Someone is testing these weapons on groups they think no one will miss." "Well, they're wrong," Jake said grimly. "We're going to miss them." When they arrived at the Kepler system, they found the Drifter fleet scattered across space. Hundreds of beautiful ships drifted silently, their solar sails torn and their lights dark. Only a dozen vessels still showed signs of life. The largest surviving ship contacted them immediately. "Human vessel, this is Fleet Singer Zara of the Star-Winged clan. Are you here to help us?" "Yes," Jake replied. "We're here to help. Can you tell us what happened?" A sickness came to our fleet 2 months ago. It kills quickly and spreads through our ships like fire. We have lost over 90% of our people. Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Another species facing extinction. Another test of whether the galaxy had truly learned anything from the Zephyrian tragedy. "We're bringing our medical team over," Jake said. "Hold on. Help is here." As the Sanctuary's crew prepared for another rescue mission, Jake received a priority. Message from Admiral Wells. The news was both good and bad. "Jake, we've intercepted hegemony communications. They're planning something big. The weapons used on the Zephyrians and the Drifters were just tests. They're preparing to use biological weapons on a massive scale." "Against who?" Jake asked. "Anyone who opposes them. They want to reshape the galaxy to suit their interests. And they're planning to start with the Human Colonial Alliance." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 months, maybe less. We need to stop them before they deploy their weapons." Jake looked around the bridge at his mixed crew of humans and Zephyrians. They had come so far together. They had saved one species and were trying to save another. But now it seemed like the war was just beginning. "Admiral, we'll do what we can to help the Drifters and gather intelligence. But you need to know something." "What's that?" "We're not fighting this war alone anymore. The Zephyrians are with us. And soon, hopefully, so will the Drifters. The hegemony wants to rule through fear and violence. We're going to show them the power of unity and hope." Over the next few days, the Sanctuary's crew worked tirelessly to help the surviving Drifters. Dr. Chun and her team found a way to cure the biological weapon. Lisa and the engineers repaired their ships. And most importantly, Jake and Melody helped them understand that they were not alone anymore. "Join us," Jake said to Fleet Singer Zara as they stood in the cargo bay of her restored ship. "Help us build something better than what the galaxy has now." Zara looked around at her people, then at the humans and Zephyrians who had saved them. "We have wandered the stars for millennia, belonging to no one and nothing. But perhaps it is time to find a home among friends." The Drifter fleet, reduced but not broken, began the journey to join the Human Colonial Alliance. 3 species that had been ignored and dismissed by the galaxy were now working together. They were small compared to the great powers, but they had something their enemies didn't understand. They had hope. They had unity. And they had learned that every life, no matter how small or different, had value worth fighting for. As the Sanctuary led the Drifter fleet toward Alliance space, Jake stood once again on the observation deck. Melody joined him, her lights reflecting his quiet determination. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I'm thinking about that first day we met," Jake replied. "When you were sitting alone in the station, and everyone had given up on you. Remember, I thought I would die forgotten and alone. But you didn't. And now look at us. 3 species working together, preparing to face the biggest challenge any of us have ever seen." Melody's lights pulsed with something that might have been laughter. The galaxy ignored us because they thought we were too small to matter. They were wrong. "Yes," Jake agreed. "They were V.